Alright, I'm back with the new video, SAC Owner Club. This one's going to be about hardware prices. So I thought it was a good time to make this video because Apple recently raised their hardware prices. So basically anything with storage in it and RAM, they raised the price on by a couple of $100. It depends on the model, obviously, but they basically raised the prices across the board because they said that they are taking a margin hit um, because of the hardware pricing, which is true, but Apple is over. Actually, I'm not sure if it's over 4 trillion anymore. It might be a little. Apple is near $4 trillion in market capitalization, and they have a 27% profit margin. So that means that every dollar they bring in revenue, they keep 24 cents of it in profit, or actually 27 cents in profits. So that's pretty good. But I mean, this company is saying like, oh, we have to like raise prices because we're not making enough money, which it's kind of like hard, and it's like very tone deaf to say that when you're already at like 27% margin. I mean, you could have just said that, oh, because of price increases in our supply line, we have to make price adjustments so our products are more reflective of the price we're paying right now versus maybe what we could have paid over a year ago or something like that. Yeah, I mean, this situation is pretty sad because a lot of people, they don't really have like this technology hardware. So I'm pretty fortunate. So I got this um, M1 MacBook Pro. It's the one with like the M1 Pro chip. So it's like one of the earlier iterations. And I remember when I bought this PC, it wasn't really on sale at the time. It was kind of like a rough market. It was 2021, so at least like at the time that I was like looking for a laptop, they didn't really have anything discounted. Um, I needed a laptop for college because I was going to college, and at that time we were still on like on Zoom and stuff. And I was using my old laptop for Zoom and stuff, and it ended up like messing with the laptop. Like I was having graphical problems because Zoom is like very taxing on hardware. Yeah, that's like one thing I'm glad I don't have to do anymore because as much as like Zoom is like very convenient, it's a very taxing software, and like I think that's why like a lot of people, they would like use their mobile devices like an iPad or a phone to do it because like their computers couldn't handle it because of like some sort of optimization thing where like it just runs really poorly on laptops and PC, but it's somehow manageable on mobile devices. So yeah, basically based on that, I think in like 2020 when I got this laptop, it was $2,000 MSRP, and it came with an M1 Pro chip, which at the time when Apple released the M1 Pro, like it knocked my socks off because I was like really following Intel for a long time, and when Apple dropped the M1 Pro chip or even just the M1 chip, like that chip was like pretty revolutionary because like no one really had speeds like that and efficiency like that. So that's why I like invested into the product. I do admit like $2,000 was kind of like a steep price, and while I think I was able to get like an educational discount where I got like $150 Apple gift card. And honestly, like that money kind of like went back into the Apple ecosystem. So most of that money just went to like me buying a case for the laptop, which was honestly a lot of money because I bought it directly from Apple. If I knew more, I would probably buy the same case that I have, but instead of buying it from Apple, I probably would have bought it on like a third party marketplace where you can basically just buy it off of someone who just happened to have that product at a discount. That's what I would have done, but I mean at that time I wasn't like that into like marketplaces and commerce and like just getting prices and things like that. I wasn't super that into it, but essentially I paid like $2,000 for this M1 Pro. It has a really strong chip. The ports on it are pretty good. That's also another thing I wanted, because there was like the M1 Air model, but like the ports on the Air model compared to the Pro are like it's like way inferior. And also when the M1 Pro came out, the standard used to be 8 gigabytes of RAM, and it used to be 256 M.2. And this M1 Pro has 16 gigabytes of RAM, and it has a 512 gigabyte M.2. So the part of the price premium was that because Apple, they charged a lot for RAM at that time and M.2s. And then, yeah, essentially I bought this like really strong product. And like what I noticed over the years is like the product remained exceptionally strong. So I'm not really like trying to plug the M1 Pro, but I'm just saying like my experience with the device has been pretty good. And last time I looked on the secondhand market, it was like 800 bucks. So I think honestly, like under 1,000, if it's still available for that much, I think the M1 Pro is like a really good deal. The one thing though is the issue I have with the pricing is it's kind of like an old device. So there's been like several iterations where I think they're on the M5 now, right? The M5. So I like in terms of like my standards, like based on how old the device is, it actually held its value really well, even though it was kind of overpriced from the view of the person who was maybe in like that time period looking at the components. But that connects back to today because we have this memory crisis with basically there's just not enough like silicon going around because of AI. So they are eating up all the storage and they're eating up all the RAM. So the RAM, they're eating up in like the DDR modules, like the stuff you plug into your PC, like the sticks of RAM that's like used for like browsing. And then they're also eating up VRAM, and also like PCIe lanes, they're eating those up because they need those tools for AI rendering and things like that. And of course, they also need storage for the same reason of AI. Yeah, so essentially like this AI demand, it drove prices up, where today, if I look back at like the prices that were given to us back then, like those prices still look pretty bad in that moment, but in today's moment, they kind of look a little bit better just because Apple did lay out that price increase across models. So essentially, it's more expensive to get the same product now. And the issue I have with that is a lot of companies are doing this, where in the past they would essentially try to innovate and give you more for less. But nowadays they are reverting back to old designs and they're giving you less and they're charging you more money. And that's really my issue because like the news about Apple came out today, but this has been a problem. So basically every single manufacturer that kind of like sells direct to consumer, they're either planning price increases or they're already implemented several price increases. So like for manufacturers, I'm not sure if Nvidia raised prices. They did raise prices indirectly because they did state that they would no longer bundle components when they're shipping to the people that put the boards together. Because for the most part, Nvidia just they used to get the memory chips too, but like they don't really do that other than like for their founders model where they make it themselves. But essentially, like they're a fabless chip company, and you're essentially paying for their design, and they're kind enough to, since it's their design, they're kind enough to give you the chips themselves, so like the thing that they process on. But the way they raise prices is that they no longer bundle the memory modules that they would need for the graphics cards. So now like the individual makers of these things have to scrape together whatever parts they can get. And then obviously if they're smaller, their purchasing power is a lot less. So yeah, Nvidia, they didn't directly raise prices, but I can't see any cards at MSRP. Like for example, the 5070 Ti is supposed to be 750 bucks. It's usually around like $1,000 bucks. So that's a 33% increase over MSRP. That's ridiculous. There's also other cards. I think that's the main example that I'm going to use. And then there's AMD. AMD did raise prices twice, I think. So I think they raised prices by 10% twice. And yeah, so basically, like, companies, they no longer sell at MSRP or no longer even feel obligated to, and it just sucks because, like, we lack the consumer protection in the United States, where these companies are still continuously advertising the fact that, oh, you can buy a product at MSRP, but they're using MSRP from an ad that they launched during that launch period, so it's outdated information. It's not really reflective of the street price that people are paying. Um, for AMD, I guess they did try to address it, but they didn't really reprice the MSRP. So even though they said they're raising prices for the manufacturers, they're mostly blaming it on the manufacturers themselves, where they're saying like, oh, we had the MSRP price, but now we had to raise the prices of the components that go into it. And because of that, our manufacturers that put together the boards, they no longer want to sell at MSRP because they can't. I also heard that the AMD launch was subsidized, so they were never actually able to sell at MSRP. That's what I've heard. I didn't really follow the news at the time, that the launch day, essentially. I didn't really follow the launch day news, but that's what I've heard from, like, a retrospective view is that like the MSRP was never real. And then you also have these bigger companies where they actually like kind of like bundle the hardware together. So that was like Apple, but you also have companies like Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. So they've all raised console prices, and it's been pretty depressing. So even with like the PS5, like, I remember buying that for like $800 in a bundle. And even today, like, a lot of the stuff that I paid for in the bundle, like, it went up in price. Like, the controllers I got, they were like $60. I think they're like $80 or $90 now, full price, if you don't buy it on sale or anything. And then I also got like more controllers the other time for like some extra controllers, because essentially I recognize that like controllers, they might go up on price, and then controllers are also scarce when it comes to new controllers. For like legacy consoles, I've like gotten pretty good at repairing them. So like a PS3 controller, I have a lot of those. Like, these are pretty easy to repair. Yeah, like the design on these was like pretty friendly to people. But then like you go into like hardware today, and it's like I don't really see any screw slots. And I mean, to me it seems like you kind of have to like pry this open, but at least to me, like, looking at that PS5 controller, there's no like obvious way of taking it apart. And that also adds to this issue where like the parting for things, a lot of times it's easier and cheaper to buy things that are soldered on. So that's one reason Apple was able to control pricing, because when things are essentially soldered to the board, so you can't like really take it off unless you're willing to use some tool, it's a lot harder to take out than just like, oh, I'm just gonna, hit the plastic switch and take out the RAM and the M.2. So a lot of manufacturers, they put it on the board so you can't replace it. So funnily enough, it's kind of like planned obsolescence because you can't swap the hardware. But because it's bundled together, it was actually able to help control costs for people that are they still want to access the hardware. So that was like a cheaper way to access that, is if you would buy like a used board with soldered RAM on it, because the person can't really rip it out, and it's only worth as much as like the system itself, and it might actually be worth less because you can't really swap it from that system, right? So essentially you're paying less to get more, like as I said earlier. But yeah, nowadays you're essentially paying more to get less. So yeah, like Sony raised prices on the PS5. I'm not sure if they raised it once or twice. I think this is the second time they raised it. And then same thing with Xbox. I'm pretty sure they raised prices twice. And then Nintendo as well. One really disappointing thing about Nintendo is when they raised the console prices, they also raised it on the Switch One, which is ridiculous. Like, that console is so old, archaic. And like a lot of those components in that console are also so old that I just refuse to believe that like it's because of a cost reason. Like, they definitely did that because they're greedy. Like, you do not have to raise prices on last gen like that when you know for a fact that like your costs have gone down so much that you're already making so much money. They just did it so it makes the Switch 2 look better, because if you don't have either Switch, if they only raise the price of the Switch 2, and then you're like, oh, I just want to play like Mario Kart, I don't really care which one, like I like Mario Kart 8, so in that case, like most people probably would have bought the Switch 1, because you know they don't really care about graphics, you know, they just want to play a game, and it was like the cheaper option. It's like almost maybe like half the price of the Switch 2, if like depending on what configuration you get. But like the Switch 1 could have been a really good deal, but then they raised the price on that too, so like that's not a good deal anymore. And then the same thing with Xbox, like although I never really like owned Xbox consoles, like for a while I was kind of like recommending them, to be honest, because I recognized like the console that they have, like the Xbox One S, even though it's like relatively underpowered, I recognize like the impact it had on people who are like trying to get into gaming, because like for $400 or something, I think they raised the price now. I don't know if it's like $400 right now, but it used to be like a pretty cheap console like before they increased the price. So you were able to access gaming, and I mean honestly, if you didn't like care too much about like the resolution, like you did get to play like new gen games. Like I remember like a few weeks ago I saw someone playing like Arc Raiders on like the light version of the Xbox, right? So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, like how they're able to play games that like just came out on this hardware that is like, oh, it was already like a kind of underpowered day one, but because of optimization it works really well. But nowadays, I mean, maybe I would still recommend it just because of like Xbox Game Pass and like how a lot of people get it free because of Discord. Like I might still recommend that over Sony, because I just really don't like Sony's PS Plus program, because they also keep raising the price on that too. So there's also like these software costs where these services you get, they're increasingly get worse over time, and you keep paying more and more. So that also happened in my life, where I was subscribed to this VPN for a long time, but I realized like a lot of these features that I thought I would get, I never really got. And although my prices never really increased, it made me question of like, oh, like why am I paying for this VPN if it, you know, it kind of sucks. Like, you know, at that point, I might as well just use a free VPN. And regarding VPNs too, like I don't really buy like the whole like privacy part, especially if you keep like being subscribed to like one VPN over time. I mean, it feels like it's not very like, it doesn't make a lot of sense if you like care about your privacy to like really trust this one organization to like keep protecting your information. And also I don't like how much they advertise too. So it's like, oh, we supposedly like keep your data private and we don't have any logs, but like we have all this advertisement money, and then like we want to get more people on our platform. So it just makes you question of like how big is their advertising budget, where are they getting that money from, and like what is their motive. So yeah, things like that. And then the main topic of the video that I actually wanted to cover, which it took me like 18 minutes to get to, is actually the Steam machine, because so leading up to the Steam machine, I was speculating that it was going to be over $1,000, because I remember I didn't really look into the hardware before, but yeah, like before I even looked into the hardware, I was like, oh, whatever they promised. And like I remember seeing some of the hardware, I was like, yeah, there's no way you're gonna be able to make it under $1,000 just because of like what the other console makers were doing, and then also just knowing like how expensive memory and like storage was, because memory did go up like 500%, and then storage went up like 200-300%. So actually 200-300 maybe and 400%. So they went up a lot in price. That also like Steam's not really that big on hardware yet, so they're like a small fish. And then even before leading up to that, they raised the price on the Steam Deck, and it was a very steep price increase where essentially when they launched the Steam Deck, you were able to get one for like $400. And I remember there was even a time when you can get one under $400 used, even with a lot of storage, because a lot of people just weren't really using it. So like they initially bought it and then they stopped using it, and then they kept refreshing the model, and then they kept moving up the storage size, and they kept staying with the higher prices. And now there's only 2 models of the Steam Deck you can get, and then they essentially raised the price on those 2. So I think for the most expensive Steam Deck, I think it's like $950 or something. So it's almost pushing $1,000 for like a little handheld device that doesn't even get full 1080p. That's another reason I don't really buy like handheld devices. I think people that buy them are pretty stupid. Like like growing up, I had like a PSP, but then I lost it, and then from then on, I just had like Nintendo, and then with Nintendo, I kind of didn't really care about the graphics, and then even Nintendo side, like the only ones that I have are the DS, that I got a long time ago, and then ever since the DS, the only other console that I got was the normal Switch. So yeah, like handhelds, I think it's a waste of money to just try to get like performance out of it. Like you really have to. I think your intention when you get a handheld should just be for like the games, or just like, oh, like are you gonna have fun, or like what are you gonna use it for? Because if your main goal is to get performance out of it, like you're gonna be disappointed. And this leads to the Steam machine. So the Steam machine is supposed to be a mini PC that can play games, but it's more so a mini PC that games can be played on. So it's not really a gaming PC. They promised 4K 60 FPS. It's bullshit. They cannot achieve that even with frame gen in most cases. I think in most games, even to hit 1080p on like medium high settings, you need to use frame gen at 60 frames. They're just lying, because I know like the power requirements and whatever they're able to promise, and then how long it's been in development is just like using common sense, man. Like they're the equivalent of the GPU in the Steam machine is like a $200 GPU. And the main reason they're able to like charge this amount of money is because it's RDNA 3. So they're essentially saying like, oh, the graphics card itself might be like a little bit underpowered compared to today's standards, where it actually might underperform an RX 6600, which is supposed to be an entry-level card from like 2 generations ago. It would probably, compared to today, I mean, it wouldn't perform better than any of the cheapest cards out right now. So I don't think it would be in an RTX 5050, and it wouldn't be in an RTX 9060 8 gig. So even the weakest card on the market currently that you could buy new from the current lineup, it still wouldn't be able to beat that on the Steam machine. And then regarding the CPU, I mean, it's also like like a small form PC. So I mean, I think the CPU will perform fine, but I mean, it's also like one of those things where you can't really swap the hardware. You want to like build a PC, but you're already paying like over $1,000, and then you didn't really buy a controller with it. And then the base one, I think the base one comes with 516 gigs of storage. So I mean, if you want to play actual games on it, like I don't know, GTA 6, 2K, Warzone, Call of Duty, like you really can't even play games on it, because like that file size isn't big enough for anything. I mean, even I remember I even verified this, like in 2017 when Sony was making the PS4, they started shipping the PS4 Slim models with a 1 terabyte hard drive. So basically in 2017 you had companies admitting like, oh, you need 1 terabyte for games. And even though they give you a hard drive, they still admitted that you need more storage. But then nowadays they're trying to pretend that you don't need storage just because storage is really expensive. So I mean, what can Valve do about it? Really nothing. But I mean, I think it was just like stupid and greedy from them to like deviate from what they're doing. I mean, you know, like Valve, I don't really think they're a talented company. They just happen to get business. They're a legacy player. I would say like the standards on Steam have definitely been declining over time, and I mean, it's to me it's like nothing really more than a marketplace. They just print money based on like the Steam marketplace, and then just people buying games. There's nothing really that Steam does innovates in that sense. I know they still make games, but I don't really consider like Valve games as like a major competitor to anything, because while they did used to drop their games on console, like they don't really do that anymore. So I don't really see them as a competitor in any sort of scene. I kind of view them as like an indie developer, if anything, because technically they are independent, but they're still huge because they make so much money as a private company, because all their money is based off of like fees. So they're essentially charging you money for a service that they're supposedly providing, but their service really doesn't cost them anything. But yeah, essentially, I think they just got ahead of themselves, because they just wanted to make a mini PC, and then they didn't really consider like the possibility of, oh, maybe like hardware prices could 5x, or maybe like by the time we're able to release the machine, it's actually so weak that we're kind of like alienating the market for it, where it's hard to pick that machine over anything else unless you really need that small form factor. That's the only reason you would buy that PC. And even then, it kind of boils back to the point of it should be very intentional of why you need such a small PC, and you should also ask yourself like, oh, if you need like a small PC like that, why do you need to spend $1,000 on it, and why can't you buy something like a Mac Mini or something like that? Like, I don't want to plug Apple. I don't own Apple stock right now. I've maybe owned some in the past. Doesn't really matter. But yeah, I'm not trying to plug them, but I know like at least before they increased the price on the Mac Mini, like people used to joke that it was cheaper to like buy two Mac Minis than to upgrade the storage on like a device that you were planning to buy. So yeah, like you could already buy like small PCs for like, I don't know if the price is accurate, but you were able to buy them for like $500. But nowadays, like the market is really bad, and that's why like the Steam machine is getting released at like $1,000, and then to buy like the top end model with a controller, it's almost $1,500 for a console that can't even get 1080p 60 frames. So it's really confusing of like what's going on with that. And also like with other hardware too, like the whole hardware ecosystem have been like really degenerating because of like the lack of innovation and just giving you less things for more money. It's been especially, it's just like cross compatibility issues. Like I've been like trying to get hardware working on my PC, and essentially like they keep switching the standards so much that like no matter what, like some part of your build is gonna be outdated. And I mean, you could like chase, like you could try to chase like, oh, I want to have like the best PC or something, but honestly it's not worth it. And I mean, like when it comes to normies, I mean, they just use their phones. So I mean, maybe you should just like listen to the normies. Like people who just use like $200 Android phones. Like they're not spending a lot of money on technology, but like a lot of the stuff they have might look like crap, but like their quality of life ain't that bad. Let me see if I can find my phone. Yeah, like I have this phone over here. Like I've upgraded to this phone this year, like Apple phone. Um, it's the iPhone 13 Pro. Before that, I had a 13 mini, and then I got this phone for like $400. I would say it's not like the best deal ever because it kind of did only. So like my mini came with 4 gigabytes of RAM. This comes with 6, but I mean 6 gigabytes is not that much. And I think the chip, it might have a better chip in it. But like I think the main reason I got it for was the camera, and this model that I have also has 1 terabyte in storage. So that was very important for me because I kind of like foresaw that if I'm gonna get like a used phone or something, I should just get the max storage one because like I'm never really gonna complain about like the fact that I have like too much storage on my phone. And I kind of like already foresaw that they would like increase phone prices or something like that, which they actually did do. Like that's what I had said today. Like they raised the prices on Apple products, so I was able to kind of like front run that a little bit. But even then, like this phone, like I'm kind of like hanging on by a thread with the support. So I mean, within a couple of years, like support might be dropped or something. I hope not, but I'm just gonna hope that like that phone remains competent for a long time. And then I would just try to like take that approach where if I buy like technology, especially like technology where I could like kind of like trust it to be okay secondhand, or at least like trust it enough where I wouldn't get scammed while I'm buying it. So like this used phone, I would say it kind of like met my expectations. I mean, I was like a little bit disappointed. So like I got it for like $400, but like the battery health is like below 80% already. So like technically it needs a battery replacement, but it's like, like I said earlier, like, you can like try to keep optimizing things, but there's just like a point where you just don't care. And it kind of like does boil down to that. I think it sucks though, because these companies, I mean, they're in the business of like making money and selling stuff, but I mean, they're trying to like, they were like pushing this whole innovation cycle, and it's like, oh, you have to keep upgrading. But now like we got into the point where like you can't even upgrade anymore. They're asking you to downgrade, and they're charging you more money to do that. So it's really starting to hurt the market for electronics and things like that. So I have stuff listed on like OfferUp. Maybe like OfferUp's not like the best place anymore, but like that's what I used to use in the past. And I mean, it seems like people still buy stuff on OfferUp, but like for me personally, I've been having like a really hard time selling anything. I've been trying to like price them like pretty fairly and like up to like market, and like I usually try to check like if I like look up something like that, if I see anything like similar, if I see something for like a similar price. Um, but yeah, I mean, I try to like price stuff competitively. I have like storage up there, like M.2 drives. I have RAM listed. Of course, they're like kind of inflated in price because I am pricing them based on market price because I can sell it way under market price, but if I can't really get like a replacement cost out of it, like it kind of doesn't make sense for me to sell it, you know, like if 16 or no, if 32 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM are like 200 bucks on the street and I'm trying to sell it for like 100 bucks, like I'm probably like really undercutting myself because like my replacement cost of that module is immediately it's 200 bucks. So I'm taking a 50% haircut immediately, and further down the line, I don't really know if I can buy that stuff back. So I have to price it in a way where like I don't lose too much, but I also have to price it in a way where it's like attractive to other people. And I would say like the biggest problem has been to like make it attractive to other people because if even though I try to like lower the price and like keep it close to like what it's supposed to be, like people are just not interested because like they don't have the money, they're not really building PCs right now, like demand's down, and then yeah, like there's fewer people that want the stuff, and then even the people who want the stuff, like maybe they have less money to spend. So because of that, I haven't been, I mean also like I have like a few of these controllers that I repair, and I priced like the black ones are like 30 bucks because like the black ones are the easiest to find. They're the most generic. Like when you buy a PS3, you would get a black controller with it, so that's why it's like the most common because that was like the standard version of the one you would get. And I'm like trying to sell it for like 30 bucks, and I think that's a very fair price because like when I was looking for controllers, like people sell fake ones or like third party ones, like you are able to get those cheaper, but they don't work as well. And like these ones they're Sony, so they're actually like from the manufacturer. I don't really swap any parts. I admit they're not in the best condition all the time, but like to be fair, if you're buying a controller that's almost 18 years old, like I feel like when it comes to like durability and things like that, you know, it's like made out of plastic, like don't expect it to be mint quality. But I make sure they're in working order and I price it at 30 bucks, which I think it's fair because you can't really buy new controllers anymore. So I thought 30 bucks was fair, but I mean, even that, it's like I sold a few of them, but most of them are not really selling because no one's really buying. Like I don't even get views on them because like the market is, I don't know if it's like really saturated because I do see like a lot of people advertising stuff like that. The thing is they tend to use fake parts, but like a lot of like scammers, like it doesn't really matter to them. Like they just want to get the sale, and then you know it doesn't really matter if they get the same customer over and over again. They just want to get more customers. They don't really care if it's like the same one. But yeah, I try to like provide a good service at a fair price to everyone, and I mean it's just not happening. Like the controllers I can't really sell for PS3s. I mean maybe the demand is limited, but to be honest, like retro consoles, I feel like the demand should be still there to some extent, even if it's not that popular. Because like it's pretty cheap to get the hardware, so like you could get a PS3 for like 100 bucks. So if you want to get controllers for it, I mean 30 bucks is not that steep, especially if it's an official controller. Like remember that there's a limited supply of them. Like I may be able to acquire more at various pricings, but when I acquire them, they might be in varying conditions. A lot of times, if you buy a new PS3 controller that's guaranteed to work, that's tested fully, you're gonna have to pay a bit more. But if they're untested, you might be able to get it a little bit cheaper, but then you run the risk of getting a broken controller, which did happen to me. So yeah, that's another part of like, oh, okay, you might be able to get it cheaper, but there's the risk of, oh, maybe it doesn't work. So if you take like the failure rate and then you like kind of like price that in, it might actually be around the same price. So yeah, I can't move controllers, I can't move storage, I can't move RAM. I listed my PSU, very little interest. I listed my graphics card. You would think like, oh, graphics cards are hard to get, like maybe the demand is pretty good. No, the demand is not there either. I listed it at a pretty fair price. It's a RTX 3050. I listed it at like 220 bucks. I mean, if someone wants to negotiate, I'm fine with that. But honestly, like no one even talk to me about it. But yeah, like I bought that card a long time ago. It was during like a shortage, so I did overpay for it. It was like 420 bucks, or instead of like the 250 MSRP. But like I said, like a lot of the time that MSRP is never really real. But yeah, that was an Nvidia card. I got some use out of it, but I ended up getting a new card. And then with that new card, honestly, I've been having like a lot of issues. I might end up returning it or something. But even that is like pretty complicated, because that's another thing is like I bought new hardware. They shipped it to me within a day. But then if I want to get like support with it, it takes them like multiple business weeks, like up to a month. It takes them up to a month to process it. But for me to like, when it's my money going into their pocket, they can do it within a day. But when it's their money going into my pocket, it takes them like a full month. So, you know, it's ridiculous stuff like that. And that also connects to like, yeah, like the pricing might be like that, but it's like a very opaque market right now where like the pricing might be one way, but at least my experience and then like what I'm seeing is they're kind of like raising the prices out of desperation. Like Sony right now, like they keep raising the prices, but they're not. I think Sony this year they didn't really make money. Like their profit margin is negative right now, which is like pretty telling of like the mismanagement of the company, because they have this idiot running like online game like service. I forgot what his name is, but he's like a complete dumbass. Like a lot of times in like corporate America or even just corporate world or just even the real world, man, like real world, a lot of times like your competence has nothing to do with like where you end up in life. I'm a good example of that. I'm fairly competent. I can communicate. I can do tasks pretty well. But then I see things like, oh, like this fat Mexican woman in, well, actually not Mexican. I think she was Dominican. I don't want to be racist. This fat Dominican woman in New York City stole a trash can, and she also happened to be like the chair of DEI at JP Morgan and Chase. Like, what the fuck is this bullshit? I'm literally trying to get a job at there, like as a fucking part-time teller, any bitch ass role that I can get, and then I see this fucking fat land whale Dominican bitch who literally steals a trash can while she's being recorded, knowing she got like a six-figure job that pays 200K, and then she loses her job, and then she has to give the trash can back. So it's like, these people are so fucking stupid and dumb. Like, I'm sorry for cursing. We're like 38 minutes in, but it's fucking ridiculous that you have these dumbass people that didn't earn shit, and then they're succeeding in life, and then you have competent people that, you know, oh, you're white, and then you don't have colored hair, you're not gay, you're not transgender, you're not missing limbs, you're not disabled, you're not schizophrenic, you're not the president of the United States, you're not John Lennon, you didn't walk the parade with Martin Luther King, so go fuck yourself, we're not gonna take you in. And if you want to complain to us, talk to our AI that can't help you. So yeah, that's been my experience, and honestly, it's like really frustrating because, yeah, like going back to like this hardware stuff, like a lot of this stuff is purely because of mismanagement, and a lot of this stuff too, like we're just kind of like feeding into it. So like these memory companies, they're still killing it, and we keep giving them more money. At like Micron, SK Hynix, and Samsung, they're all above $1 trillion, and these companies collectively, I would say that if you held like an ETF that essentially split these stocks like 33% each, equal weight, I think if you held over like 2 years, you'd probably be up like 500% at least, because I know for a fact like Micron, I used to own Micron. I got it like at $60 and it's all like 1,200 right now. So I would have 20x my money. But I sold earlier when I was like at 400, and that was in June. No, that was in like January, by the way. So I sold in January, and in like 4 months, it quadrupled in price. Honestly, there was no new news either. They just kept raising prices and maintaining prices. They've been announcing new launches, but other than that, I mean, they really didn't announce any news. There was no coverage, but now all of a sudden, when it's at like $1,200, everyone and their grandma's talking about it, and they're telling me like, "Oh, go buy Micron, bro. It's like the next big thing," not knowing that like I literally got that shit at like $60, and then I sold out like between like $300 and $400 because I was like, honestly, I don't know shit about this industry. Like I don't really understand technology on that level. and I kind of like left it to people that more understand it. I did retain some exposure to like semiconductors, but to be honest, all the ones that I ended up like selling that I owned stock in, I basically like missed the run up. So even Intel, I sold it at like $40. I got it at like $20, and I went up to like $120, which is ridiculous. Like Intel is such a shit company. Like it shouldn't even be worth more than $10 in a stock price. Like, because even that, like even $10 gives them like a huge market cap, and Intel is like a really shit company. So a lot of these people are like really failing up. Like even AMD, I got their graphics card because like Nvidia was like so fucking expensive that I was like, oh, I'm just gonna get like top line AMD card. So I got like the 9070 XT, but I might return it because like I'm like contacting support and people like that, and everyone just like fucking points fingers at each other, where like hardware can fail on so many levels, where it's like, oh, it could be the operating system, it could be the driver, it could be a setting, it could be the motherboard, it could be the Bank of England, it could be the motherboard pins, it could be the RAM, it could be the PSU, it could be the GPU, it could be the PCIe slot. It's just stupid, man. Like, it could be the BIOS version. It's just like there's so many things that can go wrong. And then like back in the day, like they would actually test compatibility, so you won't have these stupid issues. And then when I look these issues up, they're like, oh yeah, this is a known problem, but they just didn't tell anyone. So people found out, but they never like declared it or even like made recommendations to like make changes to consumer behavior that would help mitigate those problems. So right now, like I got that graphics card. It's supposed to run at 16 lanes. It runs at 4. It's not the worst thing in the world, but anyway, like I don't even really have any other ways to test it. Like it's fucked up because like that card was already expensive in itself, but like to get actual like fully compatible hardware where like it actually runs at the speed where it's advertised. Technically, I should be able to do this on this motherboard that I have, since it is running at PCIe 5. It's only running at 4 lanes. I don't fucking know why. Like I've been trying to like contact support and they just don't get back. So yeah, like I've contacted the GPU manufacturer. They told me to like contact the motherboard company, and then I contacted the motherboard company. I'm not sure if they replied yet. I'm gonna have to check. No, they did reply. I'm gonna have to reply to them again. They asked if I plugged it into the right spot, which is stupid. Like I did. I can't even plug it into the bottom slot. I'll just send them a picture. I'm like, you guys gotta help me out because this is definitely a motherboard issue. Like I'm convinced it's a motherboard issue because I tested 2 GPUs and had the same outcome. So yeah, because of that, I had to spend more money on the PC. So I ordered like a little gun that helps blow air out. So I'm gonna like try to clean the PC a little bit because it did get dusty. Yeah, it's been very dusty, so maybe like that's part of the reason why it's like that. I don't really take that as a real answer though. Like I understand that that could be the situation, but it's still really annoying that even stuff like that they weren't like. These are people that are worth trillions in dollars for like the companies, and then they like can't create proper designs or just like have regular fail safes in place where you make sure that there's less failure points. But yeah, I mean, it's just like a really frustrating experience. And then even nowadays, like hardware prices are even more expensive. So it's like you have these people that are woefully incompetent with like how much money they're worth. They're delivering you a really low quality service. They're giving you the middle finger when you try to like contact support. They continue to raise prices, and their stock price keeps going up, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, we have to change the way we report revenues because we want to hide the fact that certain segments of the market are declining. So yeah, gaming is declining. It's very obvious. Like if you look at like prices and things like that, it's pretty obvious that less things are being made and people are just not buying things like they used to because of the memory and storage prices. So you do need those components to like start your PC. They're not necessarily like super performance based. They do matter for performance, but not as much as like your motherboard, GPU, and CPU. But yeah, even with those, like CPU prices have been going up due to the lack of competition from Intel and AMD. So neither one of them have really created like competent products lately. We're still stuck at 8 cores. I'm gonna keep saying that till the rest of my life. Honestly, some people are still stuck at 6 cores. Like my CPU uses 6 cores. I went from 8 core to 6 core because of efficiency reasons. It is actually slower, so it is a downgrade. Um, but yeah, I'm currently at 6 cores, and that's still honestly the standard. So 6 cores is the standard. I have a CPU that's 8 cores, but I haven't really seen CPUs get past 8 cores yet. I know that they are available, but I'm talking about like commercially. So there are commercial models available, but they also have to be accessible. So I want to see like a 16 core CPU under 400 bucks, you know. When I see that, that will knock my socks off, you know. Like I would actually be impressed. But like right now, you don't have that. Um, and yeah, like even with GPUs, like they're really expensive, and then like your only really component left is the motherboard. And even motherboards, they can be really expensive because like your choices are very limited, and the only cheap options available right now for motherboards are the PCIe 5 DDR5 options, which are just really expensive because, like I said, like the M.2 and RAM situation is really bad. So that's people are just don't want to buy like AM5 boards because you need DDR5, and people just don't want to spend the money on it. So you are eliminating like gaming as like a sector. Like people are not gonna want to game anymore. People are not gonna want to like edit videos anymore. It's just gonna move people either towards mobile or like a subscription system. So I think they're trying to push people towards the subscription system, but I think inevitably more people are just gonna end up on mobile and just do more things on mobile. That's just where things are going, and I don't think these big companies can do anything about smartphone competition. I think smartphones are going to be very competitive, especially on like the non-Apple side. I don't think Apple, at least with itself, is very competitive in terms of its offerings. But outside of the Apple ecosystem, like the Android ecosystem, I would say it's like probably the I haven't owned the Android phone since like a decade, but I would say it's pretty competitive in terms of pricing because there's no real moat of like the smartphone maker. So it kind of just boils down to like who makes the best phone and who can offer the best features at the best price because all the operating systems are the same otherwise. So because of that, I think phones will remain competitive, and I think more and more people will just be pushed towards mobile devices because most people already carry like a cell phone. So it will be the most accessible way for most people to game. And I mean, yeah, to conclude the video, I mean, it's not really like a overly happy video, but I mean, yeah, this is what happens when people are ignorant, you know, like I was warning people. I'm like, look, man, they are going to raise the price on this. I mean, like, you should buy it. And I'm like, okay, they raised the price on it. It's on sale right now. You should buy it. It's like, oh, I'm not interested. And it's like, oh, I don't care about the price increases. And then like all of a sudden they go on apple.com and then they check the prices and they're like, oh, why is it like 400 bucks more than I remember? And then they go on the news and they're like, oh, the price was raised. And it's like, oh, wait, I'm not used to that. Like, why did the price go up after the fact? That usually doesn't happen. That only happens across generations if they really upgrade the software and the hardware. But that clearly is not happening right now. So yeah, a lot of people are just very ignorant, and then now they're just finding out what happens because of ignorance. Like even with the Micron example, like the reason I got it like 60 bucks because I was like, you know, RAM is pretty cheap right now, man. I should probably buy like the RAM manufacturer because I remember the RAM wasn't always cheap. You know, it's not always cheap. I was like, might as well get some. I think Micron was like PE of 10, so I was making like $6 a share at 60. So it was a steal, and at that time I had like a pretty good like growth outlook. But yeah, after like January, like when it went up to like 400 bucks or like 350 bucks, I started to like question the growth because they grew really fast, but I was like, their prices are pretty high up, and I just didn't see how, like with Samsung and Hynix, I didn't see how they would be able to maintain this pricing over a long time. The pricing has still maintained, but like I had a longer view. So I didn't want to like price my expectation of Micron based on what they're making right now and then like extrapolating that into the future. But I think that's what a lot of people are doing right now, and they're going to get burned if there's any sort of correction in the market because they're looking at Micron's earnings right now and they're projecting that over like a longer period of time. But memory is a very cyclical business, and then once you exhaust all the demand, like the supply is going to continue to creep up, because like if you keep making a lot of profit, like these modules that these people are making, they're not really different from one another. So it's kind of just like when you go to the grocery store and you like buy apples, you know, like if you go to a different grocery store, if it's like, oh, if it's still like red delicious apple, right? Like it's gonna be the same type of apple. It's essentially the same thing. So with that regard, they're essentially all selling us the same product. They're all selling it to us at a high price, and they're trying to convince us that this is sustainable, even though by common sense, it seems like one of them would just keep producing more to get more money, and then eventually they would exhaust all the demand from the consumers and the companies, because they would make so much stuff that they wouldn't be able to sell it, and then you have too much supply, and then you have pressure on prices going down. So that was my thesis. But yeah, I mean, prices just kept going up, and like no one really cares. I mean, like everyone just keeps piling onto tech. They don't do any research. They don't read any financial statements. Overly concerning, by the way. People are putting 5 figures of their money into SpaceX, and they're not even willing to read the prospectus of like what was happening with the IPO. Like they're not willing to do any research. They're just ignorant, and then they just expect things to work out just because they heard someone say that they will go up or something. It's just a lot of conviction based on hope and false realities, and just basing a lot of trust on things that aren't based in anything genuine. So yeah, I would say to combat this, don't fall for marketing. Buy used whenever you can. So yeah, let me bring my GPU here. I'll bring the box. I have it over here. Alright, so I have this GPU. This is the one that's like running at 4 lanes instead of 16. This shit was like $700, by the way. So this is what I'm saying, is they're charging you a lot of money. This was how much? 50. Is it 50? No, this is supposed to be $600 MSRP. It was $700 before tax, and it included a $70 rebate. Hold on, I'm getting messaged. Yeah, it's because I live with other people in my family, so a lot of times like my life just gets interrupted. And honestly, I don't really like my life in that regard, because I do live with my parents, and I don't really like living with either one of them. Also, I don't really have any like male family members. I'm still getting spammed with messages. Sorry. But yeah, I mean, I don't like living with family because I don't have any male family members, and I just don't like living with women in my family because they're just, oh my god, I just hate my life, you know. But yeah, back to the topic at hand. I mean, you have this card right here, $700 instead of 600, runs at 4 lanes instead of 16 because of some bug, whether that be hardware or software related. I don't really fucking care at this point. Yeah, it's just stupid, man. Like, you know, spend so much money, you get rugged, so I would just say get used, or just try to like manage your expectations. So for me, like one thing I did was kind of like get this 4K monitor. So my 3050 was kind of running poorly, so that was part of the reason why I got this card. I just wanted to get an upgrade, but honestly, after the fact of like going through all that stuff, I did learn a lot, but it's just so frustrating to work with technology nowadays. Like I really appreciate getting like a pre-built device like a PS5 where I could just plug it in and it works, you know, or just even like a cell phone. Like, oh, I just plug in the cell phone, I turn it on and it works. I don't have to deal with stuff like, oh, it's supposed to have 6 gigabytes of RAM, but it's only reading 2 gigabytes, right? Like that would be pretty stupid. Fortunately, I haven't had to deal with stuff like that. But yeah, like to combat like, I guess like the market of just like how shit things are. I would say like go on OfferUp for like used deals. A lot of stuff you can get secondhand without like being concerned about like quality. The main ones I would recommend is like computer fans. Those are generally pretty safe to buy secondhand. I also sold RAM secondhand, so I didn't buy RAM, but I did sell storage and RAM secondhand. So I would say those are pretty safe too, because they're kind of hard to mess up. I mean, unless like the person's like really dishonest and they're just selling you a broken product. Um, yeah, I mean, try to buy secondhand, manage your expectations, and then just like try to see like what generation of products that you can get that like still satisfy your needs. So the reason I got this iPhone 13 is because it still comes with a SIM slot. So in the US, the phones after the 13 actually don't come with a SIM slot anymore because I don't know, we just have stupid regulations. It should be illegal to remove SIM slots from phones. You have to use eSIMs now. But yeah, I got this one with a physical SIM slot because maybe if I'm like traveling, I might want to like pop another SIM in there. Just keep my options open. It's less annoying than eSIM because a physical SIM I could just take out, right? So that was part of the reason I got it. And it was also like a fair price because I actually got this phone after like I think like the iPhone 16 came out, like the orange one, right? I got it like around that time after the 16 came out. Yeah, I looked at it, I was like, this is 400 bucks. That model is 1600 bucks if I get the top of the line model. This is basically 75% cheaper, so in my mind, I was like, oh, if I wait like 4 more years, I could actually get the 16 for like 400 bucks, and I would be pretty happy with that. And yeah, that's like my idea is like a lot of this stuff, I would just wait until you can like reasonably afford it and like it makes sense for your budgets. Because I don't think it makes sense, even like if you have a lot of money, to spend 1600 bucks on an iPhone 16 Pro Max with like the full storage. I think it makes a lot more sense to like buy it a couple of years down the line from someone. Essentially, just buy it used at like a fraction of the price because the person ended up upgrading. Like the phone's like not as desirable anymore because there's newer phones out there and it's like a little outdated in terms of specs. So I think that's like usually the time to buy, especially if like the specs are still within your need. Um, yeah, like with the graphics card, I mean it's brand new, but I mean as I mentioned, like honestly, maybe if I got like a used card, I could have had like a similar experience, but I just wanted to like have the assurance of like having the warranty and the contact support. But I mean, I have a 3-year warranty on this card, and I've been having issues like in the first 2 weeks that I bought it. So I contacted support. They do know that I have some sort of problem. So if down the line I have issues within the next 3 years, I don't want to hear any bullshit of like, oh, you didn't tell us you had an issue. I literally told you like as soon as I could, like the problem I had, and then whether you choose to believe me or not, like that's another story. Um, but yeah, I did end up having to spend more money. I think I mentioned it, right? I spent more money to like fix this problem, so I got like a little blower to like blow the dust out, and I got this I got this bracket for my CPU because apparently like the CPU I have, it can like warp over time, which like no one told me because it's like a rectangular CPU instead of a square one, and apparently it's like they have a warping issue, which might be the reason why I'm like not reading slots properly. I don't really know. I'm not the expert. Like I said, it shouldn't really be on the consumer side to like take all these issues up. It should be on the seller side to inform the consumer of all the possible things that can go wrong with the device, or just have some sort of disclaimer. Because it's just unfair when they're advertising something and then you get something completely different. Like it's just not fair. Um, but yeah, essentially, like all you can really do is just buy hardware that's outdated, but it's still up to your needs. You could buy used hardware, or you could just kind of like use what you already have. So, like in my case, I have a PS5. I haven't really used it lately, but I like to use it sometimes. Just haven't really got around to it. But yeah, I have like games on there, like physical games. I also recommend buying physical over digital. You just get better pricing because of secondhand markets. It's really easy to get good prices on physical games. Because like the demand, like you beat a game, you still have the disc, but like you don't really want it anymore, so you can sell it. Like you get money out of it. But like with a digital game, you can't really do that. Like you beat it once, you don't like the game, like too bad, you still own it, you can't get rid of it. But yeah, just use old stuff you have. Try to like not really be caught up in the hype. So I guess I was like a little bit caught up in the hype when I bought this because I was like, oh, this card is so fast. It has like a wide bus. It's good PCIe. But then like I couldn't run the PCIe, so it's like okay, like I feel like that's like half of the card's specs. I'm not saying that half matters a lot for performance, but essentially it's still like, oh, I got this, I paid for it, but it's like it didn't really like meet my expectations, at least from what I was led to believe of like, oh, it's only NVIDIA drivers that are really buggy. No, actually, I think AMD is buggier. Like, I've owned NVIDIA, and I feel like unless you've like put yourself in that situation where you got like a super buggy NVIDIA update, you would have an issue. But I didn't really have that problem once. I don't think I had my drivers on auto update, but with this card, like within the first week of ownership, it auto updates to a broken driver that almost bricks my computer. Yeah, that was really fun. And then they proceed to tell me that the software that I used to install the driver is not compatible with the driver. I was like, well, you literally, I'm using the software that you gave me to get the upgrade that you made using the hardware that is native to your company, and it doesn't work. Like, they're so incompetent. So that's why I recommend that you just don't get caught up in the hype. Let these loser companies deal with their stock. Let them eat their cake. Let them eat it. Like, okay, you guys make the product, I don't want it. You can have it. You figure out what you're gonna do with it. But yeah, just try to buy secondhand if you trust it, and then yeah, if you still want a game but you feel like limited, I would just say like set a budget and then see what you can work within that, because I think that's a pretty good way to go about it. Just like try to set a budget and then see what you can do with that, because especially right now, like PC can get like really out of control if you like don't pay attention to pricing. And if you're like new to computer building, you have more money than sense, and you don't know what's going on. Like, I think it's really easy to spend $6,000 on a computer today, just because of like how expensive components are. Like, if you get a high-end motherboard, you fill it with storage slots, you fill it with RAM, you fill it with a GPU, you fill it with a CPU, you fill it with nice storage, you buy your Windows 11 key. Dude, that money adds up really quickly, and then like you need a mouse, you need a keyboard, you need like storage cables, you might want like a CPU fan, you might want to buy a monitor, and like, yeah, you're already at like $5,000-6,000. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. So you really have to be prudent when it comes to like electronics nowadays. And I would try to be like really educated, because like the main reason I'm making this video is that like a lot of people in my life, they use iCloud, and I think it's a complete waste of money. So I feel like if they were like a little bit more informed about like software as a service, or just like service costs over time, and then like just hardware costs over time too, I think they would also be like more appreciative of like things like this phone, where it's a couple of years old. It personally wasn't that much of an upgrade, but it was an upgrade that I kind of appreciated from like a base iPhone 13 mini. And it's like very functional, because this has 1 terabyte of storage, right? So it was $400, but I'm able to use 1 terabyte of storage on here. I'm not sure how much that is in iCloud cost. I can verify that right now. We'll actually fact check this one. iCloud, 1 terabyte per 1 terabyte iCloud price. Let's see. We are going to verify facts here, because I feel like a lot of people hate on me, even if they don't watch me, just because I don't like edit the videos with facts. But I mean, I feel like if you're overly reliant on information like that, you kind of like don't have that good of an idea of what you're talking about, and you're kind of like relying on reading off of a script, which I don't want my videos to be about. So whenever I use like statistics and things like that, just keep in mind that I might not have like the exact information in front of me, so I might have to round some things. And my intent is not to misinform or disinform, but some of that information may be misinformational. So always, just try to like verify things on your own, and then, don't take my word as gospel, because that's not my intention. I don't really want to be super instructional. I want to be more informational. So for over here, it says Apple offers 200 gigabyte plan for $3 a month, or a 2 terabyte plan for $10 a month. So Yeah, I mean, especially that's perpetual pricing. So, I mean, you could get the $200. I mean, you could get the 200 gigabyte for $3 a month, but it's almost 40 bucks a year, and it's only 200 gigabytes. Like, that's nothing. Like, you could literally, even with prices right now, you could buy a 256 gigabyte M.2 for 50 bucks because I'm selling one for that much right now. I know for a fact. And I paid like 25 bucks for that. So essentially, within a year, Apple is able to make back that money. And that's assuming you're using the full 200 gigabytes too, which most people aren't using. So it's literally a waste of money. Like, you are literally spending more in 1 year than it would cost you to get the storage equivalent of that. Like, it's stupid. And then for like the 2 terabyte one, honestly, it's very similar. Even though that is priced more competitively at $10 a month, that adds up to $120 a year. And before prices went up, actually about a year ago, I got a 2 terabyte M.2 for about 120 bucks. It ended up being free because it was supposed to be a 4 terabyte one, and they sent a 2 terabyte. Yeah, they gave it to me for free because I was like, dude, you guys advertised 4 terabytes. I know you literally can't even give me a replacement, so I don't want my money back either. Like, you're just gonna have to give me, the product for free because this is ridiculous, you know? Like, I bought 4 terabytes. You changed the listing after the fact, and then you're trying to pretend like it was my fault, you know? So, yeah, like, you could have got, that's also another thing of like, both of these plans, like, they're priced differently, but when it boils down to it, if you're able to like store those pictures on a computer, like the storage cost, you would be able to recoup it in a year. So you would literally buy a storage device, use it for a year, and it already paid for itself. Where you could pay for iCloud, and it's a perpetual cost. You are relying on their servers that can essentially stop at any day. Whether or not it's very likely that they stop doesn't matter, but technically it's not on your local device, it's on a cloud somewhere. So you're paying for something that you don't own, that you essentially get a permit to access, versus buying something that you actually own and you don't need a permit to access. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a very confusing time. So the best way to cope with that is just to get used parts that are in low demand compared to other stuff that may be in high demand and it's like a little overpriced for what you're willing to pay. And also, like, stay away from subscription-based services. So don't buy iCloud, don't buy PS Plus. Honestly, don't even buy like Xbox Live. Like, you probably don't need it. A lot of video games, I know people hate on console because it doesn't have games, but honestly, I think PC has no games. Because when it comes to consoles, you could just buy a console and play free games. Like, a lot of people do that, whether or not you want to admit it. A lot of people in third world countries, they're fortunate enough if they can afford an Xbox One S, and then once they get the Xbox One S, they're extremely happy if they can play Fortnite on it or any other free game that they can have access to. So, you know, you just really got to be grateful of like the situation that you're able to get into. And then you also like not, you don't really have to like compare yourself, and also like just remember that you could like spend more money like I did like with this, right? Like, I spent a lot of money on it, but I did get better performance out of it, but it didn't necessarily make me immediately happier. So it creates a lot of frustrations when you have a lot of hardware that's like high value, you know? It just creates some headaches for you. So like right now, even if you're doing like very well and you build a $6,000 computer, you're gonna be really upset if something just doesn't work exactly perfect in that computer because you spent so much money. You have this expectation that it will work well. But I'm trying to like nail this point down that just because you spent money, it doesn't really reflect the service quality being provided. All it reflects is the price that you were willing to pay at that time. So I think I'm gonna end this video. You know, make sure you leave a comment and subscribe. I would love to read some comments on these videos. It's been very lonely. So yeah, make sure you participate in my comment section. Make sure you subscribe to follow up on my videos, and see you guys later.